आप यहाँ क्या करने आए, क्यों आए?
फिलहाल मैं इधर दरबार पे आया।
क्या हो रहा है इस दरबार पे?
इस दरबार पे चादर चढ़ाई गई है, फातिहा पढ़ाया गया है।
तो क्या इन्होंने क्या खास काम किया था जो आप सब लोग आए?
ये गाजी इल्म दिन साहब,
क्या किया था
इन्होंने इश्क मुस्तफ़ा में शहीद हो गए थे। ये अपने आप को फांसी दिलवा दी थी।
गुस्ताख को जो है ना कत्ल किया था।
एक गुस्ताख को कत्ल किया था।
क्या करो?
मैं क्या करूँगा, कत्ल कर देंगे उसे।
सैयद मोहम्मद अलीम नक्शबंदी जमाती।
अच्छा, क्या गाजी साहब का क्या किरदार है? क्या
गाजी साहब ने एक पैगाम ये दिया कि जो भी शख्स कोई भी गुस्ताख़ी रसूल की कोशिश करेगा उसको दुनिया में नहीं रहने दिया जाएगा। चाहे गुस्ताख़ सहाबा हो, गुस्ताख़ अहले बैत हो, गुस्ताख़ औलिया हो, किसी को बर्दाश्त नहीं किया जाएगा। ये इसके रसूल हमें ये सिखाता है। तो गाजी इल्म दीन शहीद रहमतुल्लाह अलैह ने हमें बड़ा वाज़ेह क़यामत तक के लिए पैगाम दे दिया।
I don't know the intention. I think that everyone, again, if you're talking about what was said by President of Iran, Ahmadinejad, again, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If people have the freedom of the press, freedom of speech to condemn prophets, to say negative things against prophets, then he also has the right to say what he says. And you know, he has a right to question the Holocaust. He has the right to do that.
It's hard to tell exactly why it's happening in Western Europe and not in the United States as much. I have my own theories, and you know, it could be several variables. One thing we do find is that Muslim Americans tend to be actually more successful, more educated, more likely to have professional jobs here in the United States than the general public. And that trend is exactly the opposite in Europe. And so Europe is dealing with not only a religious dynamic, but a socioeconomic dynamic when it comes to their Muslim citizens. But the other thing that Europe has that's very different from the United States is that it's never been through a civil rights struggle. America grew and acquired competencies that help it deal with its minority groups through that struggle and through its ability to embrace so many different immigrant groups throughout its history. And so through that process, it's actually created and developed a responsible set of principles around free speech. America is the least censored country in the world, but the most self-censoring in some cases, simply because we as Americans, I think, have acquired a sense of responsibility around that freedom. Whereas, interestingly, Europe is very censored. There's many laws against, believe it or not, blasphemy, speaking ill of the Queen, Holocaust denial, and other laws prohibiting specific speech. And yet, it's in Europe that we find these cartoons.
There are some people who are agent provocateurs, and their job is to go into some communities, including Muslim communities, and provoke the people to break the law. Now, we have to be careful of that and not play in the hands of those who would cause havoc in the Muslim communities.
Europe just hasn't developed yet their ability to live in a multi-ethnic community. They have dealt with anti-Semitism, but have almost put it in its own category rather than taking those lessons and creating principles from them. Unfortunately, without the grassroots struggle of many people that we in the United States had through the civil rights struggle, those principles just weren't translated into the national psyche. And so while they've dealt with anti-Semitism to some degree, although not entirely, they haven't been able to extract from that experience universal principles around racism and prejudice. Rather, they've taken it as in a literal way that it's just about anti-Semitism.
My plan is that I want to walk across Europe, walk all the way to Mecca and Medina Sharif, and to create awareness about the dangers of violence in Europe and wherever I walk. Because I think walk is not only sort of a spiritual experience. The Sufis have walked many and thousands of miles during their lives. But walk also gives a very important media to interact with people. And you meet different people in different cities, and you can talk to them, you can interact with them, you can share your story and you can share their story.
गाजी साहब हैं, ऐसे ही आमर चीमा शहीद ने भी वो काम किया है जो आने वाली नस्लें याद रखेंगी। गाजी साहब का नाम टॉप लिस्ट है, सबसे ऊपर नाम है इनका, क्योंकि ये गाजी साहब का नाम क़यामत तक ज़िंदा रहेगा। और ऐसे लोग जो शातमे रसूलों का ख़ात्मा करते हैं, उनके नाम क़यामत तक ज़िंदा रहते हैं। और ज़िंदा को मैं अपने कायदों को, अपने रहबरों को याद हर आने जाने वाला तुझे देखता रहा, हर एक ज़माने वाला तुझे देखता रहा, और तेरा बनाने वाला तुझे देखता रहा, जलवा दिखाने वाला तुझे देखता रहा। वो दिल जो तेरी याद में मामूर रहा, सर्वसर है जो तेरे कदमों पे कुर्बान गया। दिल वो दिल है।
ਉਹ ਤਸਲੀਮਾ ਨਸਰੀਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਦੌਰ ਦੀ ਰਾਜਪਾਲ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਕਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ। ਤਸਲੀਮਾ ਨਸਰੀਨ ਇਸ ਖਤੂਨ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਹੈ, ਮੁਸੰਨਫ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਗਿਰੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਲਿਖਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨੂੰ ਐਸਾ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਿਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਦੀ ਦਿਲ ਆਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਹੋਵੇ। ਤੇ ਦੂਸਰਾ ਉਹ ਸਲਮਾਨ ਰੁਸ਼ਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਸਰਮਾਇਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਦਾ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਯਹੂਦੀ ਦਾ, ਤੇ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਲਿਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਉਹ ਇਨਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਐਸੇ ਅਗਰ ਜੇ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਮਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਦੇ ਹੱਥੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ।
अगर ऐसे वसाइल हो तो मैं मारूफ पहुँचा या तो ज्यादा लवा तो फिर उस तो बाद है जनाब आला ਉਹਦਾ ਸਿੱਲਾ ਨਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ।
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਕੰਮ ਬੜਾ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲ
ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ। ਇਹ ਇਸਲਾਮ ਦੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਜਾਨਾਂ ਵੀ ਆ ਜਾਣ ਔਰ ਇਸਲਾਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ इंशाअल्लाह ताला अल्लाह की रहमत ने ये जज्बा रखने हैं और सामने इस्लाम की जरिए ना बुनियादी चीज़ जरिए तो यही दसदी है कि तुसी अल्लाह के रसूल ने जेडे नबी पाक सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के खिलाफ किताबां जैसे कार्टून छाप देन जैसे कार्टून लिख देन उन्हें सिल्ला में फर्क ना था
There are Muslims in Palestine, for instance. I would prefer that the Muslims have this sense of outrage about Muslims' blood being shed than talking about some cartoon. So, you know, when we should overreact, when I said we should react and fight against oppression, we do nothing. We keep our mouths shut and we're quiet and we say nothing. But now when someone wants to have some cartoon against the Prophet, not everyone wants to be brave and they want to go kill the people that say something against our Prophet. It's wrong. I think that is a mistake, and I think that is misplaced anger. Sure, we're angry, but how do you respond to the anger? You know, and you debate, and the war that we have to win today is not a war with guns and bombs, but the war that we have to win today is a war of propaganda. And it's debate. It's debating the people, defeating people with arguments. Allah said in Quran, and argue with the people of the book in ways that are best. We have to argue in ways that are best. We have to articulate our message and not, show that we're just wild extremists. We're going to burn buildings and kill people because they said something against our Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, or any prophet.
The two most important things that Obama has to do to help alleviate the conflict between Muslims and the United States are to end and resolve the acute conflicts that the United States is directly or indirectly involved with, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And number two, I think that the president has to continue to treat and talk to Muslims in a way that is seen as respectful. If he can do these two things, I think it will take us a long way forward.